The purpose of this tutorial is not to show you all of the steps on how to use Xtul, but rather to give you an introduction to why it's so important if you're doing any indexing with the Docbook format. Later tutorials will come along with individual steps as to how to go through the process of doing the index in Docbook. But first of all, let's just show what the problem is with Docbook indexing. Of course, we know that Docbook format is simply plain text files. As you'll see, we have a number of chapters from a book listed here in the XML format. So we could simply open up a text editor and start typing in index entries. So we could, of course, say we want to add an entry in this section here about Java history and say index term, and then give it a primary Java. Go over here and do a secondary term for the sub entry and say history of, or whatever you want. Of course, you can see here that this gets very cumbersome. It's very hard to keep track of what you've already done, and of course it's a lot harder to read as well. And that's without even mentioning the fact that you could enter a lot of errors in typing. So let's get rid of that. The other option is to use some sort of a formatted editor that can handle Docbook, like XML or Oxygen. So of course these are made that you can author Docbook format with these applications. We have a chapter opened up here, the same chapter, and so it's obviously a lot easier to read, and we can do the same thing in this one and enter in an entry here. So we'll go to insert index term, then insert again, primary, type in what we want, and then insert after secondary. Okay, so we entered one index term. That was slightly easier because we're not going to have typos. However, still very cumbersome, and it's going to be hard to keep track of what we're doing. What I'd really rather do is do my index like I would normally handle it in Sky Professional. And so here we have an index for these 7 chapters that we're looking at. So as you can see, we have about 1,300 entries here. This is obviously a lot easier for me to work with. Let's insert this index into these chapters. So that's why we need this application. Let's take all of those entries and stick them into these 7 chapters that we see here all at once and without any typos. We'll go to the best part of the whole process, the embedding. And we're going to click the file that we've exported with all of our entries. And now we're going to select all the files that we want to embed into. It's going to take a couple of seconds. We'll see the process here. And we're done. So in a matter of seconds, we embedded 1,300 entries into 7 different chapters, and let's see what we have now. This is the same chapter 1, and now we'll notice that we have a slew of index entries throughout the chapter, including ones that are ranges and also ones that are regular entries. And of course, we were able to build a much better index and embed all of them into the correct locations without any room for errors in typing. So that's what Xtul does. We'll have more tutorials coming along that will show the individual processes of how to work with this application.